Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today I'll be talking about different wide receiver options for the New York Jets in free agency. We'll talk about some big fish, some mid-tier options, and some bottom of the barrel, kind of like scrapping things together. I don't know what the right phrase for that would be. I guess bargain buys? Sure, we'll go bargain buys as well. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff, and check out the podcast if you haven't already. All right, so let's start this thing off with the big fish, the big names, or some big names that I think the Jets should be interested in. Number one on the list is going to be Allen Robinson, and it seems to make a lot of sense. He's 27 years old. He's in the prime of his career. He had 1,250 yards receiving with 6 touchdowns with Chicago. Like, this is a prototypical number one receiver, bona fide stud at receiver, which the Jets haven't had consistently in a very long time. But since 2015, Brandon Marshall, who was just absolutely phenomenal that year. But nonetheless, Allen Robinson would be a great add to this team. And he's dealt with really bad quarterback play with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Chicago Bears and has still put up phenomenal numbers year over year. Now, the thing with him is he is going to cost you a ton of money, $20 million. So are you going to want to pay $20 million for an Allen Robinson? I think you can make a strong case for it, but I have no issue with people saying, that's a little bit too much. I understand that, so that's why we're going to go through a ton of different options, but Allen Robinson's going to be at the top of everyone's list, and for good reason. And I think he would be a fit in this offense with the New York Jets and someone who would be nice to go on the other side of Denzel Mims. You could also go with maybe another big fish here, but maybe not as costly as what it would be for Allen Robinson, and that's Chris Godwin, who's just 25 years old, which is a great thing. We love young wide receivers and young players and signing them. And he's coming off an 840-yard, 7-touchdown season in 12 games. Is he a true number one? That seems to be the biggest question with him because, yes, he has played with Mike Evans. I think, yes, he just put up 1,300 receiving yards, just a couple of years ago. This is a really, really good receiver and would be an immediate upgrade. I don't think he is at the level of Allen Robinson, but if you can get him for like $18 million, would you rather do that? And he's younger. You could make a strong case for it. Again, he's probably not as good as Allen Robinson. That's why I don't think he's going to cost you as much. And who knows if he even hits the market. Same with Robinson. They might be franchised by both their franchises. But I think he'd be somewhere in that $18 million range. And definitely someone who you should feel comfortable if you're in the New York Jets with having them on the outside. The next guy on my list is Juju Smith-Schuster. He's just 24 years old. He had 830 receiving yards last year, 9 touchdowns. He played with Sam Darnold at USC. So if you're keeping Sam, maybe you bring in Juju and try to get that connection back. I don't know, but he's a couple years removed from a 1,400-yard year. Yes, he wasn't necessarily putting up gaudy numbers the last 2 years, but he's a solid player. My thing is, one, he's kind of more of a slot guy, if you ask me, and he's annoying as hell. Like, let's just be honest here. With the TikTok dancing and stuff like that, there is some baggage. Is he an awful person? No, he's just a little annoying and can kind of be the butt of the joke, I guess, at sometimes. He's probably, what do you think he's going to get, $15, $16 million on the open market, something like that? I think if you can tell me that I could get Godwin for $2 to $3 million more per year on an AAV, I think I'd rather do that personally, but he is definitely a big fish. So if you like Juju, he is on the list for sure. And the last really big fish option is Kenny Golladay. He's 27 years old. Now, he only played 5 games this past year, but he put up 338 yards and 2 touchdowns. Each of the last 2 years, he's put up over 1,000 yards receiving. He's a good outside wide receiver, but isn't he kind of similar to Denzel Mims? You could probably make that case. I don't know if they would necessarily be complementing each other. Robinson, I guess, is in a sense what they want Denzel Mims to become in a perfect world. But he's just so good that I think you could potentially bring that in. And Godwin's kind of like a nice change of pace from what Mims is on the other side. I think Golladay, even with his injury, is still probably going to get $17 million a year. This is a really, really good receiver, and he's going to get paid like a really, really good receiver. So I think if he does hit the market, and who knows what Detroit's looking to do, I think someone is going to pay him. I would be surprised if it's the Jets. Of the big tier or the big fish guys, I think that Allen Robinson is probably the most likely and the one that I would target of the big fish. But let's give you some mid-tier options now and try to get some good value. All right, so in the mid-tier option, I have Corey Davis. He's 26 years old. He's coming off a 984 receiving yard season with 5 touchdowns. Now, I don't know if he is a prototypical number one bona fide receiver, But there's no doubt about it. He is a legitimate solid number 2, like a steady number, like an Eric Decker kind of. Decker's not a number 1 receiver, but if you want a steady, really good number 2 receiver, then Corey Davis is your guy. And I think it's probably going to cost you $9 million. That you're kind of betting on Denzel Mims, and you'd probably have to draft another receiver as well if you are going this route. But he is just 26 years old, so maybe you decide to go that way. I think it's maybe something they could explore. I think it would be a fit. But is he as lethal as those other guys that I just mentioned? Probably not. Maybe comparable with Juju, but I think the other receivers and the big fish are definitely much better options. The next mid-tier guy I have is a really good scheme fit, and that's Curtis Samuel. He's just 24 years old, which I love. He had 851 receiving yards last year and 3 touchdowns. On top of that, he also had 200 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He is a really dynamic player and is something that the Jets haven't had on offense in a long time, and you could do a lot of creative things with him. And I think in a Shanahan-style offense, you could do all bunch of different things. You could line him up outside. You could line him up in the slot. You could line him up in the backfield. And I think it'd probably cost you around $9 million a year for a versatile piece like that who's 24, just entering his prime. Who knows? Maybe he could even take a step forward and develop even more so. So to me, of the mid-tier group, this is the guy that I like, and I would not be surprised at all if the Jets came away with Curtis Samuel and didn't go with a big fish kind of guy. I think it would be a really nice fit to what this offense is going to look like for this Jets team in 2021. My last mid-tier guy is Will Fuller. Now, he might get paid like a big-tier guy, but I think that would be a mistake. And I classify him as a mid-tier guy because he never plays a full season. He hasn't played more than 11 games in a season since his rookie year in 2016. He had 879 yards and 8 touchdowns this year in 11 games, but he's a good receiver. He just can never stay on the field, whether it's injuries or the suspension. And the suspension carries over. He's going to be suspended a game to start this upcoming year in 2021. I think some team's going to give him $15 million a year. I wouldn't. If you could tell me that I could take a flyer on him for 1 year, $10 million, maybe I would do that. But I don't want to go this route because what good is he if he isn't on the field? If at his absolute peak he's giving you 13 or 14 games, it's not enough for me. I'm sorry. I really like a player who is on the field all the time. And this goes back to when this rumor originally came out that linked the Jets with Will Fuller. I said, well, why didn't you just re-sign Robbie Anderson last year? Maybe Fuller, when healthy, might be a better overall player. But 1, he's never healthy. And 2, Robbie always plays. He's missed like 2 games in his entire career since 2016. They came into the league at the same time. Robbie Anderson's playing 14, 15, 16 games a year, and Will Fuller's lucky to sniff double digits games a year. So it's just, I don't know, that's the frustrating thing to me there. I digress from that, and that's why I put him in a mid-tier. I think someone's going to give him $15 million. I just hope it's not the Jets. And hopefully the Jets don't go bargain shopping at wide receiver, but I'm trying to find good value. And again, for the bargain shopping, make no mistake about it, I am not advocating for these guys. I'm just trying to give you options who will likely be on the cheap side, who maybe have a little bit of upside. Let's talk about it. The first guy on my list is Rashaad Higgins. He's 26 years old. Last year with Cleveland, he had 599 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, I will say this. So over two times in his career, he averaged over 40 yards per game. So maybe in a bigger role, he's someone who could take that step forward. I think if you're banking on him to be a number 1 receiver, that's a big ask. But if you're bringing him in to be a 3rd or 4th option, that's not terrible. I think you could probably get him for about $6 million a year. I think this could be an interesting swing on a bargain bin option, but again, not my preferred plan. If the Jets come away with only 1 receiver and it's a Rashaad Higgins that in free agency, not good. This next guy, he's definitely over the hill, but maybe he has a little bit left in the tank, and that's A.J. Green. He's 32 years old. He had 523 yards and 2 touchdowns. To me, again, I would avoid it. He hasn't really been productive since 2017. He played just 9 games in 2018 and 2019 before coming back in 2020, but he just wasn't the same player with 500 yards and a couple of touchdowns. You probably get him on a 1-year deal for $6 million. I see him going to like a New England Patriots or something like that on a 1-year deal. I'd be surprised if the Jets took a swing on A.J. Green. I think he's going to go to a team like the Patriots because they just have so many issues, or maybe the Ravens, something like that. But I'd be surprised if the Jets came away with A.J. Green. Last bargain bin shopping option is Willie Snead. He's 28 years old. He's coming off a season with 432 yards and 3 touchdowns in 13 games. Now, early in his career, he did have a couple of seasons, back-to-back years, where he had over 800 receiving yards with New Orleans. Obviously, we know the Ravens are a team that is very, very run-heavy, so it's not like he's getting a ton of options. I think he's very different from them what Denzel Mims is. So if you're bringing him in for, I don't know, what's it going to cost to bring in Willie Snead, $6 or $7 million as a number 2 option, and then you're taking someone early in the draft as well? Like, let's play the game a second. What if the Jets sign Willie Snead for 2 years at $7 million, let's say, and then draft Rashaad Bateman in the first round, and your receiving core is Mims, Snead, Bateman, and Jamison Crowder? You can maybe sell me on going something like that. Again, not my preferred route. I'd rather have them go all in for an Allen Robinson or go with a really good scheme fit like Curtis Samuel. To me, those are the 2 names to really keep an eye on. But if you want to go bargain bin shopping, I think Higgins or Snead could have a little bit of upside there. So let me know if I miss somebody that you think the Jets should go after. Let me know in the comments below. I wanted to talk about a few different receivers. My favorites, like I said, are Robinson, Curtis Samuel, and then maybe from the bargain bin, I'd go with Higgins. But of that group, or if there's more, let me know in the comments or on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. You can get at me. Make sure to subscribe if you are new, and I'll talk to you next time.